the Auburn Blitz Podcast, your direct source for all Auburn all the time with Brett Pritchard, Faith Richardson, and Randy Lee.
What's up, everybody, and welcome into the Auburn Blitz Podcast here on this Tuesday morning. We're glad that you join us each and every day, wherever and whenever it is that you join us and make Auburn Blitz part of your daily Auburn intake. I'm Brett Pritchard. That's Randy Lee there, and we've got a lot we want to dive into. We appreciate all of you out there that have subscribed to our channel and continuing to help us grow and spread. And if you have not subscribed, make sure you do that before you get off today or whenever it is that you're tuning us in, and continue to help us spread the word. Randy, good morning.
Glad to be here, Brett. Hot is not a proper adjective to use on the field that we get outside last night. I actually went running about 7:45 last night, and if you go any earlier than that, I really think something mentally is a little bit off. As humid as
Probably
it is,
jeopardizing your health a little bit, to be honest.
I was worried about my 47-year-old health at 8 o'clock last night. So rough out there.
Very rough. You know, for all those that want excruciatingly hot weather, you got it. It's coming, and you'll have it for a while here. That's part of it, living here in the South. Before we dive into anything that we're going to talk about this morning, which we got a lot to talk about this morning, we're going to thank some of our partners, Sense Green, for air that is cool and clean. Just like Randy said, you need some really cool air right now all the way through September, probably even into October. And if your unit is on its last leg, you need to go ahead and call Sense Green now. They are the carrier experts here in the state of Alabama and proud supporters of Auburn athletics and our Auburn Blitz podcast. We appreciate them so very much, saving people thousands of dollars on new installations. So call them today. Scout Program Management, a full construction management firm located in Birmingham, Alabama, just was with those guys this weekend. I can't say enough about Sloan and Jay and Charles. Just tremendously great people, and will take you from the start of your project and the planning phases to the end, and they handle multi-million-dollar projects down to smaller projects. But, man, you better know what you're doing, and you don't want to get into the middle of all that stuff with a general contractor. Let Scout Program Management handle it. Call on them today up in Birmingham, Alabama, and one of our favorite places in Auburn to go is Bunkers. Can't say enough about those guys, Alan, Wes, CJ, tremendous people as well. One thing that we have in common with all our partners, we got great people, and we're so great, so thankful to be associated with them. So go check out Bunkers. Downtown Auburn, West Glen, great food, great environment, ease of parking, 50 parking spots in the parking deck. Can't say much more than that. So go check out Bunkers in downtown Auburn. All right. Obviously, the hot topic right now is what the heck's going on with Auburn's recruiting. We talked about it a little bit yesterday. Faith and I were in May Jemison yesterday, Randy, to see one of Auburn's 5 remaining commitments, and Hezekiah Harris, and he seems to be pretty firm. But Auburn thought Devin Carter was firm too, and some of these other guys that have kind of jumped ship here lately. But there's a lot of things that a lot of ways to look at this. We know it's a marathon, not a sprint. We know Auburn's got to win some football games, all that good stuff. But obviously, NIL's having a big play in this, and we all need that. I don't think anybody really jumped ship in June that's been committed for a year and a half, unless there's some deals being thrown around and some people being coerced.
Well, I'm sure there are deals being thrown around, but, the thing that's a little bit concerning as an Auburn fan is, we're trying to make deals too. And you're not getting any of these kids that Auburn's after without, giving the money that others are willing to give. I mean, you may, and you say it more than most, anybody that's got this sense of, I grew up an Auburn fan, I grew up an Alabama fan, and that's the reason that I'm going to make the decision on where I go to school. That may be a 1 in 100 kid at this point. But for the most part, it's going to not only be the money. I think the money's got a ton to do with it, Brett, but it's also, how do I fit in? Am I going to play for championships? Am I going to make it to the NFL? I mean, when you start weighing out the 4 or 5 decision-making processes that almost all kids that are 4 and 5 stars go through, let's start there, Brett. All right. What are the 5 things that you think a kid really weighs in on why he ends up at a school? I'll let you start.
If they're a 4 or 5 star,
Yeah, oh yeah, because we're after
Yeah.
no others. Now you can
Right,
say
right,
they're a high marginal 3-star that if they get an Auburn or Alabama offer, all of those guys are going to end up being 4 stars anyway,
right,
because they're going to
right.
get so many offers that the people that keep them as 3 stars, it doesn't make any sense.
I
So
agree.
yes, 4 or 5-star guys.
Okay, number one, where can I go to win a championship? I think that's, when you go back and look at some of the interviews we've had with a lot of the top 10 guys so far, they've either won a state title or competed for a state title. So they have a championship mentality, and they want to go somewhere where they can compete for a national championship. Number two, playing time and development. I would say that would be 2 and 3. and then number 4, if I can come up with just 4, would be, if you're a 4 or 5 star guy, you have anticipation of being good enough to try to play at the next level. So, am I going to have a legit shot at getting to the next level with that particular school? And so, with all that being said, I think a lot of players feel that way about Auburn. Auburn hasn't proved it on the field the last 4 years about the championships, but Auburn has proved, they can get to the top of the mountain. And that's a rare, even though Auburn's only been there a couple of times, Randy, in the last 15, 20 years, that's more than a lot of schools can say they've ever been there. And that's, when you break it down in that perspective, Auburn still is in the conversation of a place that you can go, and if everything aligns right, they can get there. They've proven that. But at the end of the day, they haven't done that in the last 4 or 5 years, and they've made some bad decisions administratively that have put them in behind the 8 ball. Let's be honest about it. And I'm going somewhere with this to come full circle to what you were saying. And it has a lot to do with the NIL and how people are positioned to spend their NIL versus other schools. Well, when you have dug yourself a hole like Auburn and you've built a roster back like Hugh Freeze has, and I think we all agree Auburn's built a pretty good roster. They're sitting there in pretty good shape this year. Well, they've probably had to devote a good bit of their money, not just now, but in the future, to some of the guys they got on this roster right now to keep them. I think the most important element in Auburn football right now is football. I mean, recruiting obviously is important, but who cares about what's going to happen in December or January, man, if you don't win this year? So I think majority of the concentration of what's going on right now needs to be on the guys they got on this roster and performance and getting some ROI on what they're doing with these players. Because if you don't this year, Randy, all this is a moot issue moving forward. Because you're probably going to have a different coaching staff. You're probably going to lose a lot of players. And now you got to start over again. So I think the priority, and you tell me if you think I'm off on this, I think the priority is the here and now and trying to win some football games and then worrying about, okay, can we go back and get some of these guys to come back in this class?
All right. So are we talking about overall football program concerns in your question below, or are we talking about recruiting?
I'm talking about recruiting, reason for concern in recruiting.
Okay, so your opinion is, all right, I'm going to continue to throw darts at you.
Sure.
Do you think we're paying more than the other schools that we're dealing with now for the current roster now? No, I'm not talking about, I hear you loud and clear.
Yeah.
But is there some part of you that feels like that we're paying more than Alabama and Georgia and LSU for our current roster?
I don't know that that's true. I think what Auburn's probably had to do is pay some guys more to convince them to stay or to get them to come, because it was all right. The reason I say that is Georgia and Alabama were operating at a much higher level than us, right? You couldn't compare our roster to theirs 2 years ago or even 3 years ago. It was night and day. When you look down through there, you used to say it better than anybody. Would you trade anybody on ours for theirs and vice versa? Would they trade anybody on theirs for hours. Well, we've started to get there now, right? I think people would take Kildrell fault, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
They take Eric Singleton. They take Cam Coleman. They take Malcolm Simmons. They probably take Xavier Chaplin. You know, we can go down the list. Now all of a sudden you got some guys that, okay, yeah, Georgia take that guy. Alabama take that guy. You know, 3 years ago, I'm not sure we had a lot of those guys on there. So what I'm saying is I think Auburn is probably paying the same, but they're probably having to look at it from a standpoint of, all right, we got to, with the new salary cap and the way I think Auburn's, what they're saying to these current recruits is that, hey, man, we got a bunch of money tied up in the guys we got here, and your time's coming. And with this salary cap, we won't really know what we got coming until down the line. I'm just speculating here.
Well, I hear you, and I wish that I thought that what you're saying is right, but I don't. I really worry that we're behind on figuring out how to manage this 20.5. I feel like we're behind on a willingness to go out there and make crazy offers that you think's crazy.
Yeah, I don't think we're doing that. I think a lot of schools are and we're not.
Well, and so the question is, if a lot of schools are, then why are we not? Now, you and I get into this argument all the time. We can't stand the state of college football, and we're starting to get to where we can't stand the state of high school football because
that's sad, by the way.
It's closing in on it, and it's going to be here sooner than you know, and I know it already is, but it's going to be more and more. But my point is you've got to relinquish that thought process from your mind. Doesn't matter what you and I think or those coaches that are doing this. Nick Saban got out of the game. You say it all the time because he couldn't deal with it and didn't want to. Well, and I don't blame him. Yep. But the current coaches, especially the ones that I'm worried about at Auburn, like you can't go and say a high school kid, I'm going to have to fork out 20 or 30 grand a month to get them to hold on to their commitment. And then once I have them on board, I've got to be able to commit. I don't know. You throw numbers, Brett. You talk to these kids way more than I do.
Well, let me use an example. Let me use an example that you and I both know well. Sedarian Morgan. Sedarian had a really good trip to Auburn last week. He obviously had a really good trip to Alabama this weekend, and by all rights is going to commit to Alabama. I think all of us know that, feel that way. But when he talked and was open with Christian Clemente at 24/7, which is a good friend of ours, and Jason Caldwell, he said that when Auburn sat down to talk to him about NIL deals and all, they weren't able to give him any numbers really right now, and that he was going to come back in February. I mean, not in February, but in December, he would come sit back down with Auburn in December and discuss where they are as far as the numbers, which leads me to believe that he really does like Auburn and is going to give them a fair opportunity to see where they are. But that's coming out of his mouth, man.
So let me ask you this. Like I'm getting a little frustrated with it. You know, I feel like we've heard this a lot before. I've bought in hook, line, and sinker. I'm an Auburn guy that's going to buy in. I do it every summer. Brett and I come on air and I talk to him for 2 or 3 months, and you can watch Brett. Brett does this every year. He in his mind, because he is the most passionate, caring Auburn football fan from the moment we were 5 years old till now. He is going to spin this thing. He's going to say he's not, that he's the show me state this year. There's too much. I mean, he bleeds orange and blue. He's not going to do that. He's going to spin this thing in a positive direction here in about the next month or so. So I'm warning you, I've been doing this with him a long time. Brett, I feel like I'm hearing the same excuses we've always heard. One, we've had to pay out a lot of money to keep the current guys that we've got on board. Well, hell, do you think Alabama didn't have to pay out a lot of money to keep Ryan Williams?
Oh, of course they did. Absolutely.
Okay, so I think everybody we're competing with is saying that. Okay, so now we're into the recruiting. And the reason for concern that I have is, yes, we've got to prove that we can win. And maybe that's the reason that we're not recruiting well. But that is not my concern. My concern is when Christian speaks with someone and Auburn is stating to someone they have pursued as hotly as we have pursued Sedarian over the last 2 years.
Right.
And you can't throw a number out there. Why? Like, I mean, Whose responsibility is it to figure out the numbers and play that game? Because how the hell are you going to get anybody if you're not playing that game?
Here's my question.
And we played it pretty good. I'm not overly negative with this coaching staff.
But what's the difference in last year to this year? I think
that's my worry. Look, Florida State's doing something right. What are they selling? Gus Malzahn offense? I mean, tell me what Florida State's selling that we're not. They just had a much worse record for last year than we did. I mean, it's been a terrible run.
You know, I gave you and a few others some pretty exclusive information, and I'm not going to say who told it to me to my face, but you know who told this to me because I told you. I mean, I had it told to my face that we've got plenty of money, but we're not going to go out and promise these guys all this stuff like some of these other schools. I mean, and I look, whether you want to agree with it or not, and I want to agree with it or not, that was told to me. Like that is not. Let me
ask you this:
that is not secondhand information, but I'm saying that I'm with you. That I don't know why we're not doing some of that. I'm not saying go out and lie to a bunch of people. I mean, we were told that. You know, there's several coaches out there, and Kirby Smart even came out and said there's a bunch of guys out there saying stuff that they know they can't back up. Right?
Look, I'm not going to say their names, but you've had conversations with the top booster. Whoever you think the top booster is, Brett's spoken with him at length recently, and the person you're speaking of there is the top dog. So you spin that how you want. We're not saying names, but that's it. I think the money's there. So let me ask this. We've had this back and forth on Lane Kiffin's, the way that he plans on building a roster, and Hugh Freeze, the way that Hugh Freeze plans on building a roster.
Right.
And we've kind of gone back and forth on which one works. Going the high school ranks and trying to get the top guys there and paying a lot of money for someone that you're not positive about, or what Lane Kiffin's done. I don't think you can deny that Lane Kiffin's had a much better program at Ole Miss during the last 5 years than Auburn has at Auburn. And yes, we tried to go for Lane. We got Hugh instead. I'm good with it. I'm not saying that. But do you think we're reversing some of that thought process, Brett, on maybe let's hold our money? Maybe let's go out there and find the Cam Ward in the mix if we feel like we need to.
There's been some fatal mistakes made in the last year and a half. 2 years.
Well, do you think I'm right? Stay with that thought process before you go to the next. Do you think I'm getting a little closer to let's go get Eric Singleton? Because you've got to retain a lot of cash to go and potentially get Cam Ward and Eric Singleton. We didn't get Cam Ward, but I don't know that we had the cash or the want to go out there and spend the money. You keep saying that was the worst decision we've made.
Yeah, that's
under
the worst
Hugh Freeze was not going. So do you think we're kind of changing our philosophy a little bit now, or am I just hoping that there's something that I'm not seeing?
I don't know. I mean, I'd really love to be able to tell you I knew that answer, but I don't. I think that's kind of why we're talking about it this morning, and we got several comments coming in that we'll get to. But I think, you know, and I said this to Faith yesterday on the podcast. You know, perception's reality in everything in life, right?
Yes.
You know. And we know that if we win football games in the fall, things will change and it'll get better. But that just continues to add more pressure on results for this season. And I'm not going to dive into this detail stuff, but I think you and I have been privy to also some information. And I'm just a little concerned about our effort. I'm not saying all of our coaches, but I think some of our coaches may not be putting max effort in. And you can say whatever you want to say, but I have way too many people send me stuff on a daily basis that don't know each other that send me the same stuff out there about what's going on and the amount of effort that's being put in. And
you're speaking of Hugh Freeze. You're speaking of Hugh Freeze directly. I'll say it. You don't have to say it. I'll say it.
But here's the deal. People aren't blind. And, you know, they're, again, Kirby Smart, Nick Saban. No, he might well still be coaching there. All the recruits at Alabama get their picture with him. I ain't found the board yet. I mean, I don't know what he must be over in the broom closet. But it's working for him. So he's probably like, you know what, just keep bringing them in, whatever. But Kirby Smart and Billy Napier and all these guys are working really hard. And again, if you're not putting in, this is like anything in the real world. If you're not putting in the same amount of effort or more than your opponent or your competition, you're getting left behind. And it's about priorities. And if my rear end was close to the fire, I would probably have all hands on deck figuring out how we're going to make sure, like, I would be preparing so much that somebody's going to have to coach their ass off against me this year to beat me. They're going to have to put their best coaching effort in game planning to beat me, because I'm going to be so far ahead of them in preparation already for this year's game plans. And I don't know that that's happening right now. And again, I'm just speculating, but I do have, and you do as well, have some pretty relevant information that comes from places that people say that, hey, I don't know about this, man. I think maybe some time and effort's not being put into the right places. And maybe that's why you're seeing this as well. Don't also think that negative recruiting isn't part of the game. Everybody does it. I recruited in college for 27 years. Okay. I know how to recruit. You know that, Randy. I know how to recruit. I used negative recruiting tactics when when I was trying to sway a student to come to a school. 100%. I would, if I really wanted that kid, I pulled out every positive thing I could pull out of my rear end about my school, and I told them every bad thing I could about the other school that was competing with me. You can say you can agree with me or not. That's part of it. That's exactly what these coaches are doing. And when you are a wounded animal, and we're wounded, and there are other animals out there that are going to pounce on opportunities. So they're using anything, any ammo, if there's any doubt in a kid's mind, to sway them to get away from them. That's just part of the game. That's the way it works.
Let me go in the direction you're going, but I'll give a different example. Brett, how often would you fish if given the opportunity and like you just got to go?
Every single day. I have a bass boat sitting down there that's all it's good for is collecting dust that I blow up on it from when I cut grass. That's under my shed down there. And it ain't a John boat. It's pretty nice bass boat. It's a pro's boat. Okay. And I think I fished. This is how little of fishing I've done. I rented my boat out last weekend for somebody to use for a photo shoot because it's been sitting down there. I'm like, it needs to be run, take it. And somebody paid me to do it. A bait company paid me to do that. That's about the most action my boat's seen in about 3 months. Well, it kills me. But yes, I would love to be out there. Yes.
The point I'm making is you're one of those guys. I am if my mind's in that direction, but I can take my mind off of it. So I'm using you, and I'm not knocking you because I wish I had a hobby that I enjoyed as much as you do. But I understand when people have hobbies. I watched Donald Trump and realized he's got the bug. Oh, and I look, my brother's got the bug. I mean, I don't think he'd mind me saying that. When you get the golf bug, man, it's like there's some part of your brain that is not clicking outside of, I've got to figure out how to get back to that golf course. I've got friends like that. That's what they do. You've got friends and people that I got to get back on that boat and go fishing, man, or I'm going to lose my mind. I got to fish. I love it. It's the thing that I enjoy more than life itself.
Addictive.
I'll leave it at that. Everybody knows exactly what I'm talking about when I bring that up. And if you can't separate that part of your life from your work life, it's going to seep in.
What would you say an obsessive amount? I'm not naming names. I'm just throwing something out there hypothetical, but it really might not be hypothetical. So y'all just read into it whatever you want. What's an obsessive amount? What would be an excessive amount of times to go fishing, or I'll just use fishing too, or playing golf in a 20-day period? What would you say obsessive is?
Well, here's the point I'll make is if your job, like if you're not off.
I mean, yeah, you got a job, you're working. So what's an obsessive amount of times to go fishing and playing golf in a 20-day period of time.
With me, with my work schedule, and I don't think that I'm any busier than anybody that we're talking about. I really don't. I've got a lot of irons in the fire, but I don't think I've got more than the ones we're discussing, nor you. So I'm your business partner. So let's put it this way. If within a 20-day period you were not on vacation, but you are supposed to be working with me on common things that we're working on,
Right.
and you went to the golf course like five or six times, or you went fishing 5 or 6 times, and I mean during the middle of the week.
Yeah, and like Tuesday, Wednesday. Yeah.
I would say, man, dude, like you really, I'm proud for you. You got a hobby, but you really don't give a damn. I mean, I'll just be honest. Like you don't care. Like you're proving to me that your 4 or 5 hours on the golf course is more important to you, or in your bass boat,
Right.
than the amount of work that I'm putting in over here trying to pull the weight for you too.
That's
Because
right.
if I was a partner
Right.
with you and you were willing to go fish and you knew that I was back there just grinding
And dying.
doing our
And
daily.
dying. Yeah.
I mean, it's just at a certain point it is a bad look. And I bring that up to you because you would go 20 out of 20.
I 100% would. And I have not. And the thing is that's the crazy thing. And I guess it does tell you how, I guess, disciplined you and I are, is because I have to go past that boat every day. And it's like, man, today'd be a good morning to get out there and hit it for a few hours. And it's like, I got all this other junk going on over here. What the hell's wrong with me? And so it's about discipline, and it's about priorities, and that's anything in life. And we say that laughingly, but if you are not putting in the same amount of time that your competition is, you're gonna be behind, man. And I don't understand the mentality on that part of it. Like, I hope and pray that I maintain good health, and in maybe 10 years, I'll be able to walk outside and get in that boat every day that I want to go get in it, and go fish or do whatever it is that we want to do and decide to do. But I just think when you are tasked with something and you get paid, a lot of money, or you own a business, if you want your business to thrive, you have to be disciplined enough to know when you can and can't do things for pleasure. If you care, like you said, if you care.
I mean, look, if you've got it rigged up where you just go do whatever the hell you want to do,
oh, it'll be great,
man. I cheer you on.
Yeah, man.
I say I've got friends, I've got acquaintances that I know are that way. Most of them are trust fund babies, but the other ones, the ones that are in the grind, have to still stay in the grind. And I don't know any of them that go to the golf course 3 days a week. I don't. I mean, I know some that go maybe on Wednesday afternoon and then they're going to sneak one in on the weekend. But, most of them don't have kids still at home either. But
that's right.
That's neither here nor there. It is part of the concern, and it is your question there. So I know we've only got about 5 more minutes.
Let me get to a couple more partners.
Okay.
We'll come back because, got some comments I want to read off. But Sure Shot in Alexander City on Highway 280, they just had their 3rd anniversary sale. Go check out Sure Shot for all your hunting apparel and firearm needs. They will sell you a brand new firearm, a long gun, a pistol, handgun, or they will accept a trade. So come by and see them. And I tell people this all the time. If you don't have a safe in your house, you ain't got to be a hunter, but you got to have a legit safe, because there's some things that if your house were to catch on fire, if somebody came in there, that are irreplaceable, and you need to have those items in that safe. And if you don't have a safe, you need to go to Sure Shot. They've got great deals. They'll actually help you get it delivered to your house. Those things weigh a ton. So I encourage all of you out there that watch, if you don't have a safe, you need to check out Sure Shot, and they will get the right safe for you, the right size, whatever. But go check them out. Again, 3rd anniversary sale this past weekend. Still got great deals going on throughout summer. Go check them out right here in Alexander City. And then Oliver Ross, our good friend Mark Gilliland, runs top-notch businesses, but their bartending service with Oliver Ross is phenomenal. For a party of 20 up to a big convention of 20,000 people, they will make sure you're taken care of. That's why you hire people like that. Professional licensed bartenders coming to work your party or event. Call on Oliver Ross today. So again, more really, really good partners that we have here. All right, Randy, to kind of close things out here.
Well, let me. I want to
Yeah.
spin this in one more direction toward
Yes.
you, because we got about 5 more minutes. And speaking of not able to go do any hobbies that we may have, I got to go on my driving my kids around on their summer circuit right now before I head into work after doing this. But Brett, you've been able to talk to how many of the top 10 kids in the state of Alabama at this point?
I think we've talked to 7 of them now. I think we're up to 7 of the top 10 after yesterday's visit with Hezekiah Harris. Yep.
Can you give, I know they all won't be alike, but can you give a feel to us Auburn fans that weren't in the room, and you're really good about, making friends with these kids. I've been around you with them. You do your best to warm them up to you, and which is what you should do. And make them comfortable to get on camera when they're 17 or 18 years old. Maybe a lot of them haven't done quite as much of that, but just, can you go down the 6 or 7 that you've seen? Just because I think that you can take some of the comments that you've received from those 6 or 7 and then just triple it, because there's that many that we're trying to get in Georgia and that many we're trying to get in Florida as well. But I bet they're all the same common statements that are coming out of them on their thoughts about Auburn. Is it, I need to see them win? And you don't have to give specific names, but just overall thoughts that you're hearing.
I mean, really, when you talk to these guys, they're very complimentary. That they really speak highly of all the schools. They're not going to say anything bad. Some will give you more information than others. Some will mention specific coaches that they have relationships with, and
is there any at Auburn? I'm going to jump in every time I'm interested. Is there any specific coaches at Auburn that they enjoy more than others? Who are they?
Coach Keen Williams, Coach Davis, Coach Freeze gets mentioned a lot. Hezekiah Harris and Bodney Cleveland both said, and their face lit up when they talk about Coach Freeze. And Sedarian Morgan, same thing. Really likes Coach Freeze. Really likes Coach Davis. I think maybe he likes Marcus Davis as much as any coach that he's dealt with on the circuit.
What's special about Marcus Davis?
His personality, man. I think he shows genuinely that he cares about them more than just what they bring to the table talent-wise. And I just think that, some guys have that common effect. I don't know. I don't really know how to explain it, but he's a guy that kind of commands the room when he walks in. He just spoke. Okay. And I know some people on here watching, and I'm going to get to all these comments, guys. I promise I'm going to get to all of them. I appreciate it. And I know Randy does too. I know there's some guys our fans aren't sold on some of our coaches, and particularly one that's watching right now doesn't really think that much of Marcus Davis. Well, we had a guy tell us this week, Randy, after watching him speak at Project 412 here in Alec City, which is a community service based deal. It's a big deal now. It's probably 250 kids participated in, over 100 adults participated in that. And I got Marcus Davis to come and speak to that group. And he came up here, and we had a bunch of people text us that said this. Now I know why he can recruit so well. And I mean, they had never heard him talk. They had never been around him. And they said, man, I can see why he's a pretty good recruiter. So sometimes you just got it. I don't know what it is sometimes, but Marcus Davis is a name, especially with wide receivers. Now, I know we just lost one in Devin Carter, and that was a blow, right? I know Sedarian Morgan's probably going to commit to Alabama, so everybody's going, well, if he was such a dang good recruiter, why ain't he? It ain't all him. It's look, you build relationships, you do all you can do within certain limitations, and it's like an employee that works. You can't answer for the boss sometimes. You can build a relationship with a customer and you go, hey, there's only so much I can do, man. I can try to go get you a discount, but if the boss is the one that makes that call, if I can't, I can't. Jaquez Wilkes really, really high on Auburn's coaches. Really think, and I think he's going to be the next commitment to Auburn. I think we're really close to him committing to Auburn.
You think a lot of that kid too, don't you?
I think a ton of him. I think he's very polished, very driven, very goal focused. Hezekiah Harris, Justin wanted me to know my feel on Hezekiah Harris. I think he's firm. Now he may flip tomorrow and they go, man, what the hell did you know? But his brothers at Auburn, by the way, his younger brother walked up and he's almost as tall as Hezekiah that's in the 9th grade. And I told Coach White yesterday, I went, good Lord, dude, up here. I said, man, y'all. And so Hezekiah he very quiet, but he had just visited Tennessee and he spoke highly of Tennessee, but he's like, my heart's at Auburn. I try to, I'm looking forward to the fall and coming to games, and I've been committed a long time, and it's just where I feel, comfortable. And, Faith asked him directly, and you'll see the interview come out in the next couple of weeks. But, what was it about Auburn that was different? And he said the level that they've recruited him. He said the relentless effort that they put in to recruiting him's topped everybody else's. So, man, when I go out on the road and I hear all this stuff, it's not that I don't think Auburn's putting effort in. It's not.
And that the main reason I wanted to close this podcast out, because I don't want people to get the feel that you and I are being overly negative. I don't think this coaching staff forgot how to recruit overnight.
They haven't.
I think Hugh Freeze, you can throw stones at Hugh Freeze, and we have. We've tried to be fair with him, and you and I were perfectly fine with him when he was hired. But there was always the exact same issues that we had with him that everybody else has had with him over the years. So we're just kind of like, show me, let me see that it's changed a little bit. And if it hasn't, then we're going to call a spade a spade. But I think that guy's one of the top recruiters in the country. I believe that. I think he always has been.
He can recruit.
And if he can coach to the level that he can recruit, I think that we'll start seeing the benefits of having him as the head coach this year. But I just wanted to get that out from you.
Yeah.
Because there's part of me that feels that Auburn is maybe changing its philosophy a little bit in recruiting. And I don't know that it's going to be right or wrong, but that you are putting yourself out there massively when you're recruiting high school kids. You are. Like, there's almost zero doubt in your mind with Eric Singleton that he's going to be a star this year. Correct, Brett?
Going to be a phenomenal player.
Okay. Well, there's not that same confidence level with Perry Thompson, is there?
There's not right now, no.
But I love Perry Thompson. I'm thrilled that we kept him, and I hope that he becomes all SEC and all American. I don't know that, but I'm 1,000% confident on Eric Singleton and the money that we're spending there. I don't know what we're spending on Perry Thompson. I'm going somewhere with this. I mean, you're taking a risk, and let's speak of the top program that we have at Auburn University right now, and that's that basketball program.
Right.
And Bruce Pearl may take a risk on 1 or 2 high school kids a year, and then he's going to get the kid from Huntsville High that did have quite a few offers, but he's not a massive recruit, so you're not having to spend a massive amount of money to get him. But you're going to retain that money where you can go get Keyshawn Hall.
Right.
So there's a philosophy change here. I'm not saying that's the truth. I'm not trying to give us
I think you're on to something here. I really do. I really, really think that if you look at Auburn and the way they in one of the top portal classes in the country with Xavier Chaplin, Mason Murphy, Eric Singleton. I mean, they went out and got 2 of the highest ranked portal guys out there in Xavier Chaplin and Eric Singleton. And both, by the way, are projected to be first-round draft.
And and this is my last comment, and I'm going to have to let you step aside and let you answer those comments that you've got coming through. This is my last comment. If you retain a lot of that 20 and a half, I'm not saying you're going to retain all that 20 and a half, because there's got to be other NIL monies that you're going to need to go along with it. But if you retain a lot of it, and those you're competing with, recruiting the high school ranks, don't retain maybe half of what you're able to,
Yep.
it allows you to go out and be just that much more competitive on the open market for guys that you know are going to step in and make a massive splash year one. So I'll leave it at that. I'm hopeful that's the reason.
Yep.
There's no part of me that thinks that this coaching staff can't recruit. And maybe we do get a few more back on board whenever we get some wins under our belt here in the next coming months, Brett. I'll step aside and I'll be tuning in, buddy.
All right, man. Appreciate it
man.
so much. Yeah, we'll close it out here. I'm going to get to these comments. Want to go ahead and hit a couple more of our partners here on the program before we get off. Old Number One Customs, for your renovation plans, designs, call on Old Number One Customs. They're going to be completely renovating our master bathroom here, and we're excited about it. So master bedroom, master bathroom, kitchen, living space, outdoor living space. Call on Old Number One Customs at 334-752-6162, and they will come check your house out and give you a basically an opportunity to get a dream bathroom, kitchen, whatever, within your budget. And they'll be in and out of your house within 2 weeks. JFA Blue Plumbing, they'll come in and install the Home Atlas Water Duo filter system to give you purified water out of all your faucets. And again, health is very important to all of us out there. So you want to be drinking purified water. I know a lot of people are a little skittish of drinking tap water and the chemicals and stuff that are there. So install it for $15.99 out the door. And there's no price to put on clean filtered water and health. So call on JFA Blue Plumbing at 844-JFA Blue. Everybody can remember that number there. So going back to some of these comments here, and I'll work my way down. I won't hit all of them, but I'll try to hit some of the most important ones here. Justin said back earlier, Kirby stole one of our highest recruits. I mean, yeah, and Shadarius Tootle. I think, yeah, I mean, there's some coaches that talk out of both sides of their mouth. And I'll say this, Georgia's had a tough time. I heard Jason and Christian say this yesterday on their podcast. Georgia had, believe it or not, had a hard time coming into to Auburn or to out the state of Alabama and getting guys, just like Auburn of late has had a tough time going into Georgia and getting guys that Georgia really wants. But they were able to come in and get Shadarius Tootle, and Shadarius Tootle has been committed for a long time. I don't think Auburn's out of the mix with him, although he flipped his commitment. Hey, we saw Antonio Coleman flip-flop 4 or 5 times between Auburn and Alabama, ended up coming to Auburn. So I don't think Auburn's completely out of the game there. Tubbs, I think overall, I don't think you have a lot of confidence in the entire coaching staff right now, with your comment here with the linebacker recruiting. And look, I'm not denying what you're saying. I think that, right now there's a lot of concern up and down the line with a lot of positions. But I'm going to say this again, and I may be off, and you guys can tell me I'm off when the season gets going or in December. But if I'm Auburn right now, I'm placing my priority on winning football games with the current roster and the players we have. And yes, you don't need to hemorrhage everybody. You don't need to continue to lose everybody in your class, but you better put your focus on getting off to a good start and winning football games, because Auburn hadn't done that in the last 4 years. We've been able to continue to recruit at a pretty high level the last couple of years in spite of the results on the field. Well, that's going to play its way out if you don't start turning things around. So PJ said, I think the NIL deals and the transfer portal is hurting college football. I mean, yeah, we can dive into that. It's a whole, we talk about that ad nauseum. I think it can benefit you. It definitely can hurt you, but you got to know how to play the game. And I think maybe Auburn right now needs to figure out how to talk to these kids more about NILs deals and what they can give them and maybe give them a little bit more of a warm and fuzzy feeling rather than saying, I just can't give you any info right now, because there are schools, whether they're lying to them or not, giving them numbers that's causing them to probably switch their allegiance. So I think Auburn, on the flip side, is really taking advantage of the transfer portal. And I think the transfer portal has really been able to help Auburn kind of fill some holes and some deficiencies in the roster that if it weren't in place, it would probably be even longer for Auburn to try to get their roster back in good shape. Justin said, do you think some of the donors are seeing that and that's why they're pulling back, talking about maybe some things going on outside the program and lack of attention? Yeah, I think so. If I were pouring a ton of money in and I didn't feel like somebody was taking it serious, I would really question if I wanted to continue to spend that kind of money in that direction. So yeah, I think that's a legit question. Tubb said, I don't understand how you're battling cancer and increasing your golf game. I mean, again, that's not for me to decide and to talk about. I mean, I can talk about it, but every man's got to make their own decision. I think Randy and I kind of went through that. You got to have it in your mind what you want to have your priorities on. Justin said he needs to recruit those donors back. I mean, I don't know that we've lost a ton of donors. Maybe there's some donors questioning some things, and they have the right to do that if they're spending, the kind of money that we all know that they're spending. War Eagle to you, Jonathan. And last comment before I get off, is Auburn doing the right thing and being patient with these deals? Just about all the AU recruiting insiders aren't panicked and feel like these other schools are overpromising and may not deliver. I said that to start the show. They are sitting there waiting maybe for some of this stuff to crash. Maybe they're doubling down on it to crash later on in the recruiting cycle, and they're saving some official visits for kids to come in the fall. And if Auburn starts winning football games, which we all hope they will, I think a lot of that will take care of itself, and they'll come back and look like the good guys. If that's what's going on. I don't know that anybody can definitively say that. I think it's speculation at this point. But I do think that from everything that I've been told too, I really feel like that's kind of where everybody inside of Auburn is leaning, that they're like, we're not going to lie to these kids. We're not going to tell them a bunch of stuff and then have to break a promise, but we'll let these other schools do that. And again, I'm not saying Auburn's the only one that's doing that. I think there may be some other schools that are in the same boat saying, I'm not going to promise. But we do know that there are schools out there that are promising the world some of these kids, and they're even paying some of them to commit. I think USC is a prime example. That's pretty well known that Southern Cal last year, especially, and maybe this year, paid kids to commit. Well, what good does that do, man? I mean, you're just giving away money. And if you got that money to give away and you don't care if they stick with you or not, then so be it. But at the end of the day, I think Auburn's trying to be as frugal and mindful of their money as they can. And I think they're hoping that results will play its way out in the fall, and some of these deals will crash, and there'll be opportunities to get these kids back. So again, speculation at this point. Time will tell all the way around. So, but anyway, again, thanks to all of you that join us each and every day here on the Auburn Blitz. We will be back with you at noon. Randy and I will be with you at noon for more of this. And any comments that you guys may have, please jump in at lunch and join us for the lunchtime show. We'll always be with you at 8 o'clock on each and every day, Monday through Friday, right here. If you have not subscribed to our Auburn Blitz channel here on YouTube, please go do that and spread the word. We appreciate all of you so very much. Again, we always say it. We hope everybody has the best day ever, and a big old War Eagle.